Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at Chris Bumstead versus Ramon Dino at the 2022 Mr. Olympia. Today I'm going to use real live video footage as well as supplementary photos to do an accurate comparison between these two gentlemen. While most people know that Chris Bumstead won the 2022 Mr. Olympia, it's interesting to see how close Ramon Dino really is to the champ. So, without further ado, let's get into this comparison, starting off with the front double biceps. Alright, so pausing this first picture, one can immediately see how good of a V-taper Chris Bumstead has. His lats flare out very wide, and his waist is very small. His arms aren't as good as Ramon Dino's because, number one, they aren't that big, and number two, he has a bicep tear, which is taking away from the overall aesthetics. Chris Bumstead's legs are very cut, and Ramon Dino does have prominent cuts in the legs, but not as much detail can be seen in comparison to Chris Bumstead. I think I'm going to have to give this one to CBUM, but let's look at a clearer picture for more detail. The level of conditioning of Chris Bumstead is very evident within his legs. Look at the difference in the separation in Chris Bumstead's legs in comparison to Ramon Dino's. It's almost night and day. The midsection for both men looks very good. Honestly, I really like the display of Ramon Dino's abs here. Chris Bumstead and Ramon both pulling a little bit of a vacuum, but overall, like I said, I'm going to give this one to CBUM. Alright, so now we're going to be entering the side chest pose. And once again, I'm immediately drawn into Chris Bumstead just because of the conditioning. And don't get me wrong, the display looks amazing as well. If we start from the bottom, his legs look very cut and separated, and his arms look very cut and separated as well. His chest, the far one specifically, is very striated and detailed, and the arms look really big here, and the torn bicep is barely noticeable. Now, Ramon has a equally as impressive display here. His conditioning looks amazing. His forearms are huge. He has some of the best forearms in classic physique. The chest sits very nicely, and the arms look tremendous. I think we need to bring up a clearer picture because this one is pretty close, I think. Okay, so going into this picture comparison, the superior conditioning of Chris Bumstead is very evident here. Chris Bumstead's legs are bigger than Ramon's and more cut. Chris Bumstead's far pec is more separated than Ramon Dino's is. And not to mention, Chris Bumstead's chest overall is bigger, I think, and more full than Ramon Dino. Yeah, Chris Bumstead has a hardness and a grainy quality that Ramon Dino does not possess, and therefore I'm going to give this pose to Chris Bumstead. As these guys head into the one and only back shot, the rear double bicep, I want you guys to take a minute to notice the conditioning and the Christmas tree that both of these guys present. Both came in amazing shape, and I really want to see how both of them will do at the 2023 Mr. Olympia. Okay, so pausing the video footage here, we're in the rear double bicep shot now, and look at the width and the separation, the detail, and the thickness of Chris Bumstead's back. It is just immense. It is amazing. Ramon Dino has a very good back too in his own right. His arms look amazing, and the separation and detail is very good. He displays a graininess and a hardness that he did not display before from the front, I think. But yeah, Ramon Dino's lower back and lats just do not flare out as much and do not have the same level of thickness that Chris Bumstead has. Now, if we look at the legs, Ramon Dino, you can't really see too much hamstring development in comparison to Chris Bumstead, who does have a torn hamstring. But yeah, Chris Bumstead's glutes are also very diced, but I think we're going to need to pull up a clearer picture to really see the conditioning. Okay, so this picture actually reveals that Ramon Dino has some great lower body conditioning. Look at the hamstrings and the glutes, they're diced and separated. The lower back looks very good here, and the upper back and the arms look very dense and grainy. Now, Chris Bumstead's back, like we said earlier, is just so much better overall than Ramon's. Chris Bumstead is diced from the back and from the lower body. That was evident in the other picture. And, I'm just going to have to give it to CBUM again. He has better conditioning and is bigger and has more muscle. All right, so the second to last pose is the abs and thigh, and both of these gentlemen in this first variation are doing the traditional arms over head. Now, Chris Bumstead looks great, but honestly, Ramon Dino is putting up a good fight here. It doesn't really seem like his legs are fully flexed yet, but his abs look amazing and honestly look more separated than Chris Bumstead's here. C-Bum's thighs look great, and his V-taper is good as always. Ramon Dino's V-taper looks pretty good here too, but I think we should go to the vacuum shot, which is the second variation, and this is where Chris Bumstead dominates. His vacuum pose is probably just as good as anyone in the golden era. He fits right into this classic physique division with this pose. Ramon Dino tries to pull a vacuum too, but it really isn't as deep, nor does it look as good as Chris Bumstead's. Now we can really see Ramon's quads flexed properly, and once again, Chris Bumstead's conditioning looks much better than Ramon's, and that really gives CBUM the upper hand in almost every shot here. Not to mention, Chris Bumstead's V-taper is much better, so I'm going to have to give him this abs and thigh shot. Okay, so now these two are going to go into their favorite classic poses, and I'm actually going to put emphasis on the twisting rear double bicep shot here. Chris Bumstead just looks statuesque, man. These two guys are reminiscent of Arnold back in the day, and this pose really reminds me of the classic golden era of bodybuilding. Look at the glutes on Chris Bumstead, man. It's almost too much. Chris Bumstead just has so much more muscle than Ramon. It's almost like a father and son here. It's like the son's trying to copy the father. And that's nothing to knock on Ramon Dino's physique. I just think that Chris Bumstead is genetically superior and has a lot more, experience than Ramon Dino does. I think Ramon Dino, if they upped the weight cap, he could definitely be just as good as Chris Bumstead. But I think, like I said, Chris Bumstead is genetically superior, and therefore he looks better in this shot. And I think I will have to give him this pose for that reason. All right, so to wrap things up, we can now score these two gentlemen. Chris Bumstead dominated this competition, and he won the front double bicep, the side chest, the rear double bicep, the ab and thigh, and the classic pose, with a final score of 5-0, with the winner being Chris Bumstead, obviously. Ramon Dino just cannot touch Chris Bumstead because Chris Bumstead is just so far ahead in terms of the physique and just everything. So, with that all being said, Chris Bumstead rightfully deserved to win this competition and the Olympia, and I don't really see anyone coming close to him in the future. Please let me know in the comments if you guys think that I was wrong, or if you want to see another competition between another classic physique competitor or anyone for that matter. I'd be happy to do a comparison between anyone. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.